In this video, I'm going to give you one thing you should never do when a man pulls away. And I'll show you exactly how to stay high value so that you can become the woman men love, adore, and cherish. I've also got my man here so that he can give you his perspective. Let's go find him.
Oh, good morning.
Hello.
Hello. This is Destined here.
And Renee.
Welcome to the rooftop.
Yes, it's been raining, so we just found the best dry spot, and here we are.
So join us. Okay, so when a man pulls away,
There's one thing you should never do. But quickly, let's give some background and context as to why it's so hard for you and for a lot of women, emotionally, mentally, physically, and psychologically when a man pulls away.
obviously as a man, I don't relate to this as much because I'm not a woman. I don't go through the same emotions.
No.
So it's obviously better for you to resonate with the crowd because as a man, it's difficult for me to resonate with that. And that's also part of the reason why men pull away so much.
Yeah.
It's because they don't get
Yeah.
what women have to go through when they do pull away.
No, they don't.
They just go and do the thing that they're familiar with.
Yeah.
Commit to their mission or solving problems, etc. They don't actually are always attuned to all the relationships around them.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
as a woman, I'm sure you experience something vastly different to what men.
We do.
experience.
We do. And I want to talk about exactly why that is, because I find that it helps to have more understanding of yourself when you're going through this type of pain. And let's be real here, it is pain. There are some women out there who are more comfortable or what you may call calm when a guy pulls away. But the vast majority of us feel some level of anxiety or at least uncertainty. Why is that? Well, enter what we call the feminine bias for attaching early. But it's not just the feminine bias for attaching early, it's the bias for attaching more. The simplest way to understand it is that this bias evolved as a response to men's need to detach and to keep their resources to themselves until they find the right woman. So as a woman, our default is to keep continually seeking that relationship because it means resources and safety and hope for us. However, for men, their default is to absolutely minimize their investment in women in general and in relationships in general, other than, of course, your family and friends, because that's what helps them stay safe. It helps protect their investment. Because let's be honest, a man's investment, it's very valuable. So as women, we have evolved this bias for attaching early because one, it helps us actually inspire that commitment from men, but two, also because those emotions that you're feeling and that pain are really important. So essentially, anxiety is so that you can secure the best deal for yourself and help bring a man further into the relationship with you. So you really have no choice in the matter. This is what you have to go through. Now, if that sounds kind of depressing, let's just say men have their own things that they have to go through in order to secure the best deal for them. They have things that, would you say, evolution has bestowed upon them in this dating game that are also extremely uncomfortable and emotionally taxing for them.
Oh, absolutely. Men have their own biases and also, they have their own challenges and they're massive challenges for a lot of men. So, and it's hard for women to resonate with them because you basically never have to go through what they have to go through.
No, you don't. So this anxiety or this concern, no matter how small or large, is actually there to protect you. It's there to protect your womb because remember, you are the womb. You are the one who carries the child. If you didn't have anxiety, then you wouldn't be looking out for your future children or for your safety. And so the unfortunate and uncomfortable truth is that we need men. When I say we need men, I'm not saying we need all the men or the low investment men. I'm saying we need just one good man, and that is our main goal.
I'd say in some countries, they take it so seriously for women that the marriage is what's quote unquote your second life. Like,
yeah,
you get married and that is a done deal. That is your ticket to either a good life or a very poor and hard life.
Yeah, exactly.
So you better choose well in those cultures because they know that you as a woman, you're going to have kids and you're not going to be able to go out there and be productive in any kind of economic way.
Yep.
So if you don't choose well, you're destined for a difficult life.
Yes, exactly. We really have to respect the life of a woman and what you have to go through, regardless of whether you want to have children or not. I'm sorry to say, if you're a woman, you were most likely born with a womb and some ovaries. Those ovaries produce hormones and that womb was designed to carry life, and you don't have a choice with that unless you remove your womb. But I mean, that's up to you. I can't I'm not going to advise you to do that. That's your choice, right? So we have to work with what we were given. Knowing that you have this feminine bias, what is the one thing that you need to never do when a man pulls away? It is to pretend that everything is okay. Why is that? It's because most women, when they have this anxiety, most women are on one end of the spectrum or on the other end of the spectrum. Either they heard from their girlfriends or their mother that they need to act cool and they need to show the man that they're not needy and that they're doing just fine without him. Independence might be the right word. And then you have other women out there who think, well, I have to hang on. I have to desperately hang on and quite literally hang on to the man. And neither of those are necessarily an ideal approach. Of course, there are other frameworks that come into this too. For example, attachment styles, or what we call attachment patterns. If you are anxiously attached, or if you have avoidant attachment style, you will have a really extreme response to this. So that would add another layer to your already existing base level anxiety that's caused by your feminine bias of attaching early. Regardless of that, you must never pretend that everything is okay, either to yourself or to your man. So let's talk a little bit about why that is, because a lot of women, they may feel like it's kind of taking their power away. Some women may be watching this and thinking, okay, this is my green light to send 350 text messages to a guy and tell him, this is unfair, you should not be doing this, why are you causing me this much pain? The disclaimer is, I am not suggesting that you should go and send those 350 text messages, but what I'm suggesting is that you need to acknowledge and feel into the truth of who you are as a woman. Yes, it does hurt when he pulls away. It's not a non-event. I think that's what we need to get at here.
I think you need to acknowledge it to yourself first.
Yeah.
What actions you take will determine why he's pulled away, how long you've been together, what's the rapport, all these little factors, and they matter a lot. But you have to acknowledge that to yourself and not push it down, because by pushing it down, you're discounting your own needs as a woman, and you're also creating a habit of not wanting to create attachments in the relationship.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think it's important to acknowledge it to yourself first.
Yes, it is counterintuitive, because in this world of power trips, all the dating advice out there tends to be skewed towards power trips. It feels very counterintuitive. It may even feel like I'm doing you a disservice, but you can't ignore what you're born with.
Well, if you're already in that power struggle of a relationship, maybe it's not even a relationship, maybe it's just a situationship, the best thing you could do for yourself is really to confirm that it is what you think it is and get out of that situation. Don't be in a relationship where it's based upon power struggles. That's never going to go anywhere good. No. Even if you get what you want, the other person is not going to get what they want, and they're going to resent you eventually, and you're basically going to strip each other of value over and over and over until there's nothing left. So it's not a good situation to be in the first place.
No, it's not. So let's talk a little bit about how to put this into practice. How do you not pretend that everything's okay? Because there's a lot of other situational or contexts that come into this topic of why men pull away. Some women may have been lonely for 10, 20, 30 years. They may have been alone for that long. And so it's kind of hard to just say, oh, well, don't pretend everything is fine, because now they've got 10 or 20 years worth of loneliness and lack of abundance, if you will, on top of that feminine bias response. So the first thing to do, if that's you, if you know that you are already feeling a deep lack of connection in your life, is to find those connections, is to go out and feel more connected. Do what it takes to have that feeling of connection viscerally in your body. Now, for some people, it might look like going out once a day and just seeing other people around you in the grocery store or around your local walking track or running track, just feeling that there are other humans around. And for other people, it might look like watching YouTube videos from other lonely people talking about it and how they work through it. Or it might be talking to a family member or a friend. It could even look like connecting with your pet for some people. Just having that feeling of bonding with something, so that you're not always coming from this, not just a lack, but from this emotional bank account where you're in debt.
You're always looking to pay your debt.
Yep, and so then instead of adding to the relationship bank account with your guy, then you're constantly taking out of it. And we all know how that looks in a real bank account. It never looks good.
So obviously it's important to fill your own cup first. And one of the most important things, I think, in my opinion, is to cultivate your own ability and your own skills in not only meeting your own needs, but also going out there and being able to connect with people. The more you stay within yourself, the less you're able to go out there and connect with people of different backgrounds and different cultures and different social status, etc. So you want to go out there and actually actively practice those skills. And the best skill you could have in those situations is the skill of playful banter. Now, I'm sure you've heard me talk about banter. It is value adding in almost every context because you're injecting playfulness into the situation. Of course, that doesn't mean that you're going to have every single interaction is going to be a successful one. Not at all. That's okay. That's okay as long as you have the intention of going into the situation with the desire to add that playfulness, add that value. Because then what you'll see is that most of the interactions will be positive, and that's going to give you a visceral sense of, yes, I can have that sense of abundant connection in my life if I choose to do so. That is critical. I think most people don't have that subconsciously, and so they feel a lack, so they try and hold on to every little interaction, even if it's a scammer from Nigeria, not to stereotype Nigerians here, but a scammer on the phone or scammer through online platforms, they go, oh, I got to hold on to that connection because that's the only thing I have.
It's like unresourcefulness begets unresourcefulness. So if you start off unresourceful, then you really and you have nothing to give in any interaction, then all you have is really this intent to keep taking, and you kind of sink into this well of loneliness and lack. So that's what we don't want, especially when a guy pulls away. We want you to feel not only more emotionally resourceful, but capable as well. Because it's one thing to feel internally emotionally resourceful, it's another to have skills in the real world. So that's where playful banter comes in.
So if you haven't checked out our class on playful banter, I'm sure there's a link below. Click on it, check it out. It's free, and it's going to help you tap into your own sense of playfulness so that you can go out into the world and create positive interactions, especially with men in this case, because men love banter, most of them at least. Not the super anxious ones or even the avoidant ones, but for the most part, men resonate with banter. And also, I was going to say, as long as you have this sense of abundance, knowing that you can go out there and connect with people, then you're going to be able to remove yourself emotionally from those negative attachments to people who don't actually care about you. Because that sense of abundance, you're going to go, wow, I can just connect with someone else. I don't need to hold on to this toxic situationship or toxic man just for that little sense of potential connection. And also, you wouldn't be feeding into the billion-dollar industry that is the online dating scams, the pig butchering scams that are so prevalent now in today's online dating platforms. I mean, think about it, $1 billion industry here. That's how much money is lost every single year because men and women are so lonely and have so little sense of abundance that they fall for these, I would say, obvious scams. But to some people, obviously, they're not obvious.
We were made to live in tribes, and that's just it doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't.
I'm sure it does in some.
Not for the most of us.
Yeah, not for most of us. And that adds another layer to this as well. That's another reason why men pulling away in this modern world is so painful, is because we are already on average, more disconnected.
Fractured, fragmented.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we've got to work with. And that's the hard part, because sometimes, especially if you're anxiously attached, you can really sink into that rumination, what psychologists call negative affect. And it can be hard to get out of. So the only way to get out of it is to become more resourceful.
Oh, by the way, if you want to instantly capture your man's attention, instantly, and have him hang off your every word, then we've got something really special for you. We put together a tiny little phrase, a little phrase that you can use on your man to instantly do exactly that, capture his attention and have him hang off your every word. And we've had so many positive interactions, positive success stories from that one phrase alone.
It's not intuitive to women, but it
to some women, I think to some women it's not intuitive. To a small percentage of women, it is. Especially the women who've grown up with guys, boys, siblings, brothers. It's worked so well. We have a whole video explaining exactly why it works so well. For some of our clients, some of them have been asked out by their man within 30 seconds of sending this text, even when the man has pulled away for months. So we'll have a link below so you can check that out. It's fascinating, and it's really important, I think, for you to understand the reason behind why this works. And for a lot of women, they go, wow, this would never work. But it does. Because at the end of the day, men and women are different. You have to understand men and their masculine psychology and what's going to resonate with them, what's going to add value to them. And very often, that in which adds value to men is not what adds value to women. It comes down to the idea that we have perceived value disparity between men and women. Men and women perceive value very differently, and that's of course a topic for another day. It's a huge topic. But if you haven't figured out what this phrase is, go down check out the links, and we'll teach you exactly what that phrase is.
So let's circle back to the one thing you should never do when a man pulls away, which is never pretend everything is okay. How do you actually put that into practice? Well, there are 2 steps. The first step is to acknowledge to yourself that there's something going on and that you have feelings about it. And the second thing is to feel into your guy and have a look at maybe what's going on in his life. What do you think? What's the best way to put the second step into practice? Because often women can get stuck, just sort of like, oh, well, maybe he's having a lot going on at work. But then there's also another aspect to that, which is, was he ever going to commit in the first place?
You have to understand why he pulls away. And there are many different reasons why men do pull away. It depends on how much rapport you've built already, how much emotional attraction there is between you and the man. Obviously, men pull away for the reason of maybe he's just not interested, and you have to be attuned enough to understand and to feel that. And by the way, if you haven't been attuned, you can at least reach out and test, and his response or lack of response will tell you a lot.
Yeah.
And you have to be aware enough and be sensitive enough to accept that feedback, I guess.
Yeah. And a good way to test is using the 2-word phrase that we've linked below.
Yep. And for most women, even if you're in an established committed relationship, a man's going to pull away at some point. He may have a very important project or problem to solve, a mission that he has to accomplish with a certain deadline, etc. And you have to really be attuned enough to know that that's where he's at.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get it. I'm a man. I don't always give all the information in the world about what I'm up to, etc. Because to me, that doesn't align with my goals. It doesn't help me achieve that goal any quicker, any more efficiently, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So I don't always communicate everything that I'm doing with you.
Which is in stark contrast to what women need. Women need those details from each other.
Yeah.
They need to share details and get details from you, but in a way that often that's taking value.
Yeah, exactly.
From a guy, so.
Exactly. Because that may detract from my narrowed focus and eventually, suddenly I lose track of what I was up to.
Yeah.
So you have to be attuned enough to really understand what he's going through. And I think the best thing to do is to understand, to establish enough rapport, enough emotional connection and attraction in that relationship in the first place, so that at least there's some communication there. At least,
At least he'll want to communicate.
Yeah, he'll want to, exactly. So that he will be in a better place to want to actually communicate with you and feel bad for not doing so.
Yeah.
If you haven't established that rapport, then it's very easy for men to just ignore. Because why, who cares?
And it's easy to not have established rapport if your default in your behavior is to pretend everything's okay, because then you're just more avoidant and you're hiding things and you're not able to fully utilize that feminine bias for attaching early, which, by the way, this is the whole reason why I've got a program on that. It's called, what's it called again? High Value Attachment.
High Value Attachment.
How do I forget the name of my own program?
Too many babies.
Yes, too many babies. High Value Attachment, and in that program I teach you how to actually utilize this early attachment to build more attraction, more emotional attraction and more emotional connection, so that a man will actually want to come forward to you and invest more in you and be more fascinated by you as a woman. He'll be drawn into your world instead of you doing everything that pushes him further away, because you are so uncomfortable with this vulnerability that your feminine bias produces in you. And I think that is the challenge of being a woman. It's the fact that we don't want that vulnerability,
Well, if you cover it up, if you push that vulnerability down, what that teaches a man is that you're not vulnerable, and that you're just like his guy friends, and that he can just go do whatever he wants and you'll be fine. That's what it teaches him. And the more you reinforce that message, the more he's going to put your emotions on the back burner.
Yeah.
Because you're doing it first. You're doing it to yourself first.
Yeah.
Right? So the whole key here, I guess, the whole distinction here is that your vulnerability and your need for that connection and that commitment can be a value-adding thing if you allow it to be. It can also be value-taking. Of course, we all know that neediness can be value-taking because you send him 350 messages and you're trying to extract that attention from him, and that is very value-taking, but it could also be used in a value-adding way.
And you can also modulate your desire to send the 350 text messages by acknowledging it within yourself, acknowledging these feelings that, yes, this is difficult, and it's supposed to be. Unfortunately, I mean, I wish I didn't have to say that. It's like, trying to tell women that they're as strong as men. You're just never going to be as physically strong as men. And in this realm too, you're just never going to not be with that feminine bias for attaching early. So acknowledge that to yourself. And let yourself believe that it has value. It evolved for a reason. And in fact, sorry to continue. We'll circle back to what you want to say, but I was going to bring this concept of pair bonding into it because this relates to building emotional attraction. Emotional attraction builds that pair bond. Pair bonding in humans actually evolved after maternal care. So women became capable of inspiring that pair bond in men after they had to take care of children. So isn't that interesting? It's like, it's necessary. It's actually protective for women. So if you can understand and appreciate that within yourself, then you can maybe modulate your anxiety and your need to reach out so much. You can at least say, hey, well, this is something that not only I have, other women have. And maybe that'll give you some resources back to yourself because you realize this is a natural thing. It's not just you. And from there, then you can think, well, maybe there's a way I can work with this. How do I work with this? You ask better quality questions rather than just having this knee-jerk response of trying to take value.
Yeah. So add value, and the best way to do that is through playfulness.
Yeah.
Especially if you've established, you already have a baseline level of emotional attraction based off of playfulness. So instead of, sinking into that anxiety and trying to extract attention and a reply out of your man,
reassurance.
You can, for example, I'll give you an example that I'm sure used. Hello, oh, knock knock, no one's there. No, it's your cue to say who's there. All right, fine. You want to play that game? All right, I'm staying silent too. I'm just kidding. Where are you? Are you okay? You can inject so much more playfulness at the same time as having that level of anxiety behind the scenes. That is just one little example of actually adding value in that moment. Like, oh my God, I can't breathe right now. I'm dead. Okay, I'm dead now. Dead. Okay, rushing away.
Yeah.
The stray dogs are eating my flesh. Yep, the flies are around me. Yep, too late now. You can still add value and by being playful.
Yeah.
You just play with it, just roll with it. It doesn't have to be a value extracting experience for the man.
There is humor in everything. You can have, I think that's also, now we're bringing another framework into it, which is secure attachment style. But humor is a good way to make yourself more secure when you're severely anxious. And that's the best gift in your work and your suggestions is that you can poke fun at yourself and just learn a different way of expressing your neediness, if that makes sense. That invites interaction in a very value-adding way.
Yeah, exactly. So with that being said, we have put together a special guide on how to stay high value when your man does pull away. Because at the end of the day, it's a matter of when, not if. I think every man is going to pull away at some point, just because he's a masculine soul and he needs to go out there and hunt the buffaloes. So
in this guide, I go through all the typical contexts in which men pull away. After 15 years, I've worked out there are some typical scenarios in which men tend to have that response of pulling away. And I go through exactly what to do. So the steps to take in that specific scenario. There's also a longer video.
We'll put together a video to accompany the guide as well.
To guide you through this process. It's different to the guide, but it's when you get the guide, you get the video as well. So if you want that, we will put a link in the description below.
All right, so I hope that's given you some insight into when your man pulls away, what you need to do, what you need to focus on. And at the end of the day, there is knowledge, is understanding that you need to gain, but also the skill of adding value to your man and creating that rapport in the first place. Because the more rapport, the more emotional attraction and connection you establish, the easier the whole experience is going to be. So make sure you focus on that. Focus on your ability to cultivate those two elements, emotional attraction, emotional connection, so that when he does pull away, you're going to take that just a lot easier. It's just going to be a much smoother experience for you. All right,
thanks for watching.
I hope that makes sense. All the links are below. Go check them out. And that's all from us. We'll talk to you soon.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
So let's circle back. When a man pulls away, obviously you don't want to do anything. I mean, no. That's not the point.